Hello and welcome to the MAC weather page for this Friday, March 10th, and we've got some pretty cold weather coming up. In fact, darn right winter cold. It'll be the coldest air we've seen since early January, and over the next 5 days we'll average about 10 degrees below normal. We'll begin to moderate towards the second half of next week, but until then, very cold. Not a lot of snow expected here for the Great Lakes, as we see a pretty good storm that's going to really nail the East Coast. In fact, it could get 2 or 3 of them back to back, and we'll show you that on some of the snowfall forecasts, which it could be pretty incredible for places like Pennsylvania up into New York and Boston. You can see over the next 6 to 10 days we begin to loosen up on this cold as we get towards the end of next week. That would be at the middle part of that 6 to 10 day outlook, and then we become near to a little bit of normal. Looks like next towards the end of next week into the following week. Precipitation wise, near to maybe slightly below normal here. And so again, very cold conditions coming up, and we could see wind chills today down around or below 10 degrees above zero. Our normals of the day now up to 40 degrees, so we're out of the 30s for normal highs. The normal low is 21. And you can see back on this date in 1998 we had 6.3 inches of snow. And if we look at some pictures across many of the storm damaged locations around Michigan, and you can see we had a new record, 1 million customers, about 700,000 DTE customers, and about 300,000 consumer energy customers were affected by this storm, which makes it a new record for the most power loss across the state of Michigan ever. And if we look at the next slide, you can see the coldest and warmest temperatures across the lower 48 on Thursday, 93 degrees at Riverside, California, and -4 degrees at Embarrass, Minnesota, and that's quite a name. Not sure what the founders had in mind there, but they actually are kind of interesting little town, about 100 miles south of International Falls. They often can really get very, very cold. They're in a low, kind of swampy area. In fact, most of the thermometers there that they use for official observations are actually alcohol-based, which allows the recordings to go down to about 65 degrees below zero. So kind of an interesting little town there. If you look at the conditions around the area yesterday across the MAC area, you can see temperatures mainly in the upper 30s to around 40. And you can see the warm spot was 45 down at Jasper, the cold spot in Newaygo at 28 degrees, and we're about a half a degree below normal so far for the month. And over here we got some of the updated totals on the peak wind speeds. Still 2 locations that we got to get back online. That's Henderson. I don't think they'll be higher than their 74 mile per hour, but certainly St. Thomas probably much higher than the 25 miles per hour there. So we'll have that updated. We'll create a report that will put in the historic storms for the state of Michigan here sometime here over the next few days or next week or so. If we look at the conditions around the area this morning, you can see temperatures mainly in the low 20s across much of the area, upper 20s southeast lower Michigan. And if we look at the satellite view this morning, you can see that snowstorm that's going to be affecting portions of the big cities along the East Coast. And the next system of interest will be coming off the Pacific. It'll drop down into the Ohio Valley, and there could be a major winter storm for the East Coast coming up early next week. If we look at the radar, you can see that snow across areas of Pennsylvania into the Boston area, and again, that'll not affect the Great Lakes. And we do got some lake effect snows coming across Lake Superior and across Lake Michigan into northwest lower Michigan, but again, amounts pretty light there. And if we look at the weather map this morning, you can see that low pressure system that'll move off the coast, bringing the snow to the East Coast, and quite a few areas of low pressure off in the Rockies back to the Pacific Northwest. Those will be coming in and staying mainly south of the state of Michigan, so we don't expect much in the way of snowfall here right on through the weekend. We could see some light snow as we get into Monday and Tuesday, as that storm system will be eventually moving across the southern portions of the Ohio area. And again, most of the snow will be out east with that system. And by Sunday, you can see the development of that system now coming off the lee of the Rockies, spreading some heavy snow into portions of the eastern Dakotas, into southern Minnesota and northern Iowa. And again, that heaviest activity will stay well to our south, but it's going to be quite a storm for the Ohio Valley from Ohio into parts of the upstate New York, Pennsylvania, and through the big cities. Looking at the reason why we're going to be quite cold over the next 5 days, I showed this graphic a couple of days ago, but this is some of the source region of the cold in Alberta and Saskatchewan that's going to be coming into the Great Lakes here over the next few days. Again, the next 5 days looks like we'll average about 10 degrees below normal. And as far as rainfall over the next 7 days, you can see most of the along the Gulf states up into the East Coast. Again, partially due to that snowstorm there. For us, very light precipitation amounts over the next 7 days. And if we look at the next slide, you can see the total snowfall here over the next 72 hours. Pretty decent amounts off into the Dakotas, back to the Pacific Northwest, and that winter storm from Pennsylvania into the mid-Atlantic states, again, dropping about 3 to 6. Some areas could see as much as 10 inches of snow. And then the bigger system will be coming into the area early next week, and you can see that here. Over the next 7 days, a tremendous amount of snow could fall across eastern Pennsylvania into upstate New York, into Vermont, and across areas of Massachusetts, New York City. Again, we could see amounts up to 20 inches of snow over the next 7 days, so we're going to keep an eye on that. Could be a blizzard type situation here coming up early next week as well. And now on to Weather Watch. You can see winter weather advisories from Pennsylvania all the way to Boston. Winter storm warnings for the Bronx and Long Island into portions of the Boston area, and some winter weather advisories for the eastern portions of the UP and way out into the Dakotas, with wind chill advisories across much of the Dakotas into Minnesota, where they could see wind chill temperatures down to minus 20 degrees. And we got some freeze warnings across the Missouri Valley into the Tennessee and Ohio valleys. Thanks for stopping by, and have yourself a great day, a great weekend, and 73s to all.